Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a new deck profile for my Gold Paladin deck for Ezel. And yeah, this is going to be another premium deck profile. So last week, I did a premium deck profile for my Alfred deck for Royal Paladin. So this week, we're going to be looking into my Gold Paladin deck, which I am pretty familiar that Ezel is actually a pretty decent deck in the premium format, what I've heard. And you know what? From my perspective, this deck is actually, well, it's a good deck. Don't get me wrong, but it's actually really fun to play. Yeah, golds really just have an opportunity to just go off in this deck, depending on what resources you have available, and I actually think it's really fun. So yeah, like always, I've got the deck. Well, as of recently, I've decided to spread out the deck onto the playmat so you can see the entire list there, and I'll also have the names of all the units in the description below, so check that out. But yeah, well, let's get stuck straight into the deck. So for the grade 3s, I decided to go with the 3 Blond Ezel, the 3 Raven-haired Ezel, and then the 4 Sagramore. I think 3 of each of the Ezels is a fair ratio. I have seen some builds playing the Limit Break 5 Raven-haired Ezel. I think it was from the first Revival collection during the G era. But yeah, it's the Limit Break 5 one, which kind of gives sort of like a pseudo guard restrict on that turn, which is actually really powerful with like an ultimate turn. But yeah, I don't actually have access to that card. I have actually ordered one recently. It's not going to arrive in time with the way that I want to do these videos. So yeah, if you want to implement that Ezel, I'd probably recommend taking out one of the stride fodders probably. Because the cool thing is that since it's got the same name as the standard Raven-haired Ezel, you can actually use it for ultimate stride cost for ultimate, which is actually pretty cool. I quite like how there's an interaction with the old and the new version of the same named card, and both of them are good. So yeah, that's pretty cool there. But like I said, I don't have the Limit Break 5 Ezel, but if you want to implement it, swap out a stride fodder for that. But either way, I think 3 and 3 is fine. You're going to be superior riding the Blond Ezel from the deck with the Kyrph starter, which is over here. And can I just take this opportunity to say, it feels so good to play this old starter again, because for those that have stuck around on the channel for a while, you may know that Blond Ezel, the original Blond Ezel from Limit Break era, that was actually the first deck I made, like constructed. And I loved playing the Superior Ride engine with Kyrph and Beaumains and Gareth. It was just so entertaining to get that Superior Ride off. And it's even more powerful in this deck, obviously, because we can utilize the new Blond Ezel with the Excel marker, and also we're going to be getting Axel 2 this weekend with the Heroic Evolution. So that's going to be really cool, and I'm looking forward to that. And in fact, this deck, I would say, is a little bit more constructed towards the Excel 2, just because you can draw more and more resources to then use on things like over here. I've actually got Athels in the deck, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, that'll wrap up the grade 3s. The 4 Sagramore I don't think is really need to explain. It just helps fill board, a Soul Blast to get a plus, and then you call something from your hand to the rearguard circle. So really solid. But then we have the big guy of the deck, which is Beaumains. And oh boy, yeah. This guy is so important, like ridiculously important in this deck. Yeah, so as you're probably aware, most people do tell you to mulligan your entire hand if you do not see Beaumains when you're like drawing your first 5. And that is true. Yeah, you really want to be doing that, because Beaumains will just set you up so nicely during that game. You got to be careful though. I did a little bit of research of this deck, and sometimes the superior ride isn't always a good thing, depending on the matchup you're going against. Like, I think I remember watching someone's video saying that if you do the superior ride and you're not going first, doing it against like a Nubatama deck, for example, where they've got the Dominate G units, that's actually hurting you. So yeah, that's rather interesting. I haven't looked too far deep into that in terms of the strategies with the other clans and all that. But it was actually rather interesting to know that that was a thing to take into mind, So if you are looking into Gold Paladin for premium, definitely do some research on the deck. Like, I am still way unexperienced with this deck. I have hardly any experience with this deck, but I have been playing it for a few weeks now, and it is, like I said, it's very entertaining to play, and that's really all I really care about. I don't really care if the deck's like highly competitive or anything. I just care if the deck's fun, and yeah, it is. So yeah, so Beaumains, definitely got to play 4 of him for that superior ride, since we can discard a card, get the Gareth, and then use the old Kyrph to then get the superior ride off. So that's really cool. Then we have the 4 copies of Wonder Ezel, which this card is so weird to see again, just because I actually did the deck profile with this card back in the day. What was it? GBT07, I think it was, when Ezel got support in the G era. I think it got Howell and also this Wonder Ezel grade 2. But yeah, it was like I think it was like 2016, if I remember. I've got the video on my channel. It was like when I played Blaster Things server when GBT06 came out with Light and Dark Lou and Barkle and Floropald and Floggle. And then the next main set gave support for Ezel. And I remember doing a deck profile with this card. So it's really strange to see it again, actually being a good card, like ridiculously good. It was kind of mediocre back then, but with Premium, this card is a lot better. And it gets better with Excel too, since obviously it allows you to reride your Ezels over and over again, getting more and more Excel markers, and then you're just getting free pluses from then on. So pretty good. And also there was an interaction I found out when I was doing my research, which is why I have Brennius in the deck over here. Brennius is actually really good with Wonder Ezel because it offers you the opportunity to get Wonder Ezel's skill off before your stride step. So in my Royal deck, Tana was a little bit awkward to work with because it doesn't do anything once you're in the striding phase. But the cool thing with this is that you can ride a Ezel unit. If Brennius is on your field, you can ride an Ezel, put Brennius into your soul. Well, get your Excel marker first, obviously. Put Brennius into your soul, draw a card, and then call a card from your hand. So then you can actually call the Wonder Ezel to then get another superior ride and then get another Excel marker, which is pretty cool, actually. I didn't actually realize, like, I was seeing Brennius was being played, but when I actually found out why it was being played, I was like, oh my god, that's such a cool interaction. And again, this is one of those things about Premium which I really appreciate, which is like the card interactions in this format is just so interesting. And, you know, seeing Brennius work with like the old Wonder Ezel is just really cool. So yeah, but anyway, I've talked too much about Wonder Ezel, so we'll move on to Athels. So like I mentioned him earlier before, Athels, I've seen some decks play loads of different grade 2s. I've seen builds with Vivian in it. I've seen Turtle in a build, which was interesting to see. And Athels, I think I've seen in a couple, not many. The reason I like Athels is mainly because of Excel 2, which I will be putting into this deck at some point when Heroic Evolution comes out. But I like Athels because it discards a card to look at top 3, call 1. So it's kind of like Vivian in a way. But the reason I like it is that it really works in conjunction with things like your Howell grade 1, which is this is the new Howell. This isn't the countercharge soul charge one, the old one. This is the new one because I really like the attack extensions that this card can do, and pairing it up with Athels is actually really cool because you can draw something, call something from hand with Howell, and then because that was placed from Howell, plays from hand with Howell, you can then use Athel's skill to discard something, look at top 3, call something else. So even though you're not generating a plus really, you are getting an extension on the amount of attacks that you're doing that turn, and I think that's really cool. Because one of the main G units in this deck is Spearcross, is it? Glorious Reigning Dragon, sorry. But yeah, Glorious Reigning is actually ridiculous in the late game. The amount of attacks you can get off with him is crazy, and having that opportunity to use the Howell grade 1 with Athels, I think is really cool to do in terms of an extension of your attacks on that turn. So that's kind of the reason why I'm playing the Athels there. I do understand I have seen builds where they just play Beaumains and Wonder Ezel, because the theory there is that because you've only got 8 grade 2s in your deck, you have a higher chance to miss grade, which means you have a better chance of looking the top 5 for that Beaumains target for the superior ride. So that's strange. You know, that it's a thing that's taken in the mind, but you know, it's pretty cool. You know, it's I like the idea of that, but I personally like playing the 2 Athels in here for the attack extension, so that's me. So going into the grade 1s, we have the 3 Dindrane, the 3 Stridefotter, the 3 Gareth. This is a pretty similar lineup to most other builds that I've seen. I've seen a couple of builds with 4 Dindrane. But I'm happy with 3 because I think 3, 3, and 3 is a good lineup for these, just in terms of having a healthy amount of them. But yeah, Dindrane is again a +1, same like Sagramore. The Stride Fodder is just to help with striding in the deck. So we've got like, we'll be riding a grade 3, so then we'll have like 12 other cards in the deck that can help us with the stride. So that's nice to have. And then the 3 Gareth, I kind of like 3 of them because, yes, we need one to get the superior ride off with the Kyrph and the Beaumains, but I also like having the extras there as sort of like alternate targets that you can call with the Beaumains, because Beaumains in a way kind of acts similar to Athels in that you can discard a card to call a Gareth from your deck. And that's actually pretty cool in terms of the extensions that you can do with your attacks, like I was saying earlier with Athels. So I kind of like having the 3 there, but also there's the risk of maybe riding a Gareth as well. So that helps you with just mitigating any bad luck. Basically give me like a bad luck protection in a way. So yeah, I really like the 3 Gareth, but I could probably see people maybe cutting it at 2 probably, but we'll see. But then we have the Brennius, of course. Yeah, Brennius is just really, really cool with the Blond Ezel, like I was saying earlier. And then we have the 2 Howell for the attack extensions, which I really like as well. I have seen some decks playing the absolute Lion King G unit for Ezel, because sometimes you may ride into the Sagramore if you have an unfortunate game. But then having the Ezel G unit gives you the Ezel name that Howell needs in order to activate the skill, which that is something to take into mind, but I prefer just not playing it. But you can fit that into the deck if you feel like, so that is another option there. So yeah, going into the triggers, we have the 4 critical from the premium collection, the 4 premium critical. Also nice to the fact that it goes into soul as well, so that's a way for us to generate soul for things like Dindrane and the Sagramore. Then we have 3 more critical. Man, I tell you what, I've been really tempted to put in some fronts in this deck, because I have seen other builds where they do optimize to play the front trigger. Oops, sorry, knocked the camera. But yeah, the front trigger actually is interesting to think about with this deck, but I think I'm just a crit fanatic when it comes to Ezel and just my decks in general when it comes to Paladins, but yeah, I really just like the crit build. That's just my personal take on it. But yeah, front triggers are something I've seen other people take into mind when it comes to an Ezel deck, so that's pretty cool there. Now, one thing I really like is the 1 inclusion of the stand trigger. Now, this is really, really clever. It's not much to think about in the whole scheme of things. You've got the stand there because ultimate is in the deck, and a stand trigger with ultimate is just insane, which I think we can all agree with, but I like the fact that this stand trigger is able to get shuffled back into the deck, and it's easier to do with this deck now because of Spear X Dragon being able to call something, and then you can use the trigger's skill to, when something's called, you can put it back into your deck and then draw a card. So you're getting a card back for it, but you're also getting the opportunity to put this back into the deck because you have Spear X, which can call stuff from your deck. Because I think before people were relying on Vivian to do that, which is, yeah, that's cool, but I don't like the Counterblast and the Soul Blast that Vivian costs, but that is another reason to why I like playing the Athels, because Athels is kind of doing the same thing. Yes, we're not generating a plus, we're getting a 1-for-1, but it's also giving that opportunity for us to trigger the stand trigger's ability to shuffle it back into the deck again. So I like having the opportunity of using the thing like Spear X and also Athels to do that. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, really, really big fan of this. I was kind of mind blown when I saw it was being played. I was like, oh my god. And then I was looking through my my collection to see if I had one somewhere, because I was pretty certain I did. And no jokes, I could only find one of it. Like, I literally only had one of this laying around, and I couldn't find any more. So thank God I held on to one. Jesus. But yeah, for the remaining triggers, we have the 4 draw PGs, of course, just for drawing, and well, it's a perfect guard as well, of course. We can't really fit a grade 1 perfect guard in here. And then we have the 4 standard heals to wrap that up. So, going into the G zone, we have the 4 copies of Gurguit Helios, which is actually pretty insane. So I got really lucky with this, okay? So let me just tell you. I think about a year ago, when Standard was fairly new, me and my friends were actually still playing G format for a little bit, and I felt like making a different G deck. So I looked around and I saw that Garmor had a stride grade 3, you know, an on-stride skill, grade 3 from GPT-13. And I thought, oh, let's look at that. That's pretty cool. You know, I like Garmor, so why not? And then I looked at the deck, and it was actually reasonably cheap. And obviously, with the reboot happening, a lot of the G cards went way, way down in price, like ridiculously low. So when it came to building the G zone for that deck, Gurguit Helios was actually a card that was used, and I must have picked each of these up for about $4 each. Not even joking. I picked these up for $4 each, and this was way before the Ezel stuff came out, or even it was announced in Standard. So I got really lucky with this. This card was ironically a little bit more expensive, though, because it was an older card. But yeah. Anyway, that's a cool little story I just wanted to share there. But yeah, I got really lucky with these. I think these are like 10 each now. I'm not too sure. But yeah, either way, getting back into the actual list here. The 4 Helios is literally just because it's a solid first turn stride if you don't want to go for the Spear X. I have seen lists where they play only 3 of them. I'm just comfortable with the 4. You know, I just like having the 4 there just in case. But you can mix around the different numbers in here. That's fine. The 2 copies of Heavenly Law Gurguit, this card's actually really damn cool. So basically, it gives your entire field like a 10k power buff if you have 5 face-up Gurguit G units, which is why I like playing the 4 and the 1, because you'll flip one of these up for the cost, and then you'll have the 1 face-up and then these face-up later in the game. So then your entire board will be getting a power buff of like 10k, which is actually pretty cool. But also, it gives you an extra attack for that turn as well. So he's actually an attack extender, but he also gives you power as well. So that's actually really nice. And then I like the fact that Glorious Reigning is similar in the way that it generates multi-attack, but instead of giving you the power, it gives you just more multi-attack. And I think it's really cool to have the option there. So you've got the power option with 1 extra attack, depending on what else you have on the board. Maybe you like have a Howell on the field as well, so that's another attack there. But then you've got the Glorious Reigning, which of course can just generate you more attacks, depending on how many cards are face up in your G zone. So that's pretty cool. The Spear X Dragon. So this card, yeah, this card's pretty awkward for your opponent from what I've seen. So basically, if your opponent puts you at 2 damage, you can Superior Stride on them as long as, you know, everything goes well and you get the Superior ride off with like Blond Ezel. Yeah, you can just Counterblast 2 in your main phase to then stride this card from your G zone, which is pretty nutty. That's pretty cool. I really, really like that. I don't know how many of this is viable. Like, I think 1 or 2 at minimal. I don't really see any reason to play more than this, but yeah, 1 or 2 I think is a good enough number for him. But yeah, pretty cool the fact that your opponent is kind of like, not necessarily denied, but it's a bad thing for them to damage you in the early game, which kind of makes me happy with this deck because I know that I'm kind of safe in the early game. So when it comes to the late game, I've got a bit more of a long game then because I'm at such a low damage count, which can backfire. You know, sometimes I might not have the counterblast to work with, but I kind of like the mental, you know, the mental state of the game and how your opponent has to think. So that's pretty cool. Then we have the Agnos and then the Ultima, of course. Agnos is actually a lot better in this deck because we have a lot more on-place effects that we can use with this. So, yeah, really, really good. Unlike my Alfred deck, where this is very, 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 very situational, this is actually pretty good in the deck. It's actually a viable option to go for, so that's pretty cool. Ultima, of course, is Ultima. He exists, so we play him, and the stand trigger just makes it better. Then we have a Ractome, an Ellis, and then 2 copies of Slimy Flare. I couldn't really think of anything else really for G Guardians. I was pretty stuck on this. So any recommendations that anyone could think of for G Guardians, then, you know, put them in the comment section. Give us a shout there. Would love to know what you think. And then, of course, you have the Excel markers, which I don't have any Excel 2 yet. But, yeah, I would like to put Excel 2 in this deck. But Excel 1 is also an option just because the power can actually be relevant at times. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. But, yeah, that's it for my premium deck for Ezel. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I went into it, you know, a decent amount. Like I said, I'm just not completely experienced in the premium format. I just really care if the decks are fun or not. And I will say that this deck is really, really fun. So if you have access to Ezel in Premium, I would definitely give it a recommendation to play because it's just really entertaining to play. And the superior right that you can do with Kyrph is just, man, it feels good to pull off. So yeah, I'd probably say this is more fun than my Alfred deck. As much as I like Royals and the Blaster Blitz shenanigans, yeah, this deck is a little bit more entertaining on that side, but we do have one more Royal deck to do, which I am working on still. I'm currently constructing it. I'm going to be doing some testing for it over the weekend. And yeah, I should bring that hopefully next week. We'll see. But it's going to be a Blaster deck for Royal Paladin, using in the new Blaster units that we got from VEB06, the Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction set with Messianic Lord Blaster. So that's going to be really cool to look into. Looking forward to that one. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I'll have the names of all the units in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed the video in general, though. And like always, guys, take care, have a nice day, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Guardian, signing out.